Cherokee, North Carolina, home to the Cherokee Indians and Harrah's Cherokee Casino. Carolyn and I came up here for our 24th wedding anniversary to go see the Unto These Hills show and go check out the village, which you'll see here in a minute. But we also came to do a little playing over here at the casino. So why don't you guys spend our anniversary with us and see what we get up to. Look at them mountains over there. It's the mountains that Alabama was talking about. Where are we going?
Gordon Ramsay's place. I wish he was here to yell at me. Call me a donut.
You muppet, you donut.
Fucking donut. Of course you don't put a fucking donut.
We're gonna check out Gordon Ramsay's joint. I think this is the only thing that's open.
For the introduction of the commercial yarns that we use today, our weavers would take strands from the milkweed plant and weave our belts together. And they also would use mountain bison fur. They were indigenous to the area. The last one was killed in the late 1700s over in the Biltmore Forest. And this one also shows our oldest weave. It's called the oblique, and it utilizes beads to create the pattern. Carvers used to shape the barks off of trees, and our baskets were made of that same material. This one here is made of hickory bark, and it was made in 1952 near this village first opened. It's holding up really well in its age. Wow.
That was good. At least you hit it. I wouldn't have hit it.
I think this part right here is probably the worst for the downhill slopes. In our housing, we will move backwards through time, so we start with our 1800s and ended our pre-contact homes, and each of these are a third of the size of what they normally be. This one here would have been built around the 1800s, and that was after the French and Indian War and the Revolutionary War. And during those times in our history, a lot of our homes have been destroyed, and we needed to rebuild those very quickly. So you'll notice all the logs are quickly hewn and notched together. The mortar is a mixture of clay, animal hair, or straw, and that worked as a really good insulator, so we used it for a number of things. And along the inside, you'll see a half loft that would be used for storage only, and there's also a drying rack that would be used to cure meats into a type of jerky during that time. as high up on a mountain like ours is today, we would be down closer to those main water sources. We'd find the tallest and straightest yellow poplar tree that we could as close to the shoreline as we could find, and take that clay mixture from the housing and pack it about this high up off the base of the tree, then set fire to it. And the clay mixture helped keep the fire centralized and burning inward versus up the tree where we didn't need it to go. And once we had those trees felled, we'd strip them of all of their bark and lay 2 more lines of that clay mixture down either side of our log, and then set a couple of strategic fires in the center of that. And once those fires had burned down enough, we'd take our stone hatchets, chop away at the burned wood, and then set another fire. That burnout method could take about 6 months to a year to make 1 canoe. And the introduction of metal tools, and particularly the broad axe, shaved that time into about 6 to 8 weeks, so that was a lot faster for us. And to waterproof these, we'd use animal fats and even pine resin for the waterproofing, and as long as these were taken care of, a canoe could last indefinitely.
Alright guys, Shiel Nagada, Agahalishki, Dagodaa, Gali Alida Hanitiluki. Hello everyone, my name is Chipper. I'm glad you guys could join us today. Welcome to the Oconaluftee Indian Village Council House. Now as you come in the door today, you'll notice that you did just come through a wide open doorway. Traditionally and historically, this would not have been the case. The reason for that is because everything that happens in here and everything that is stored in here is of such importance it's not allowed to be seen from the outside. So the wide open doorway you just came through would have actually been a winding corridor. A council house varies in size depending upon the size of a village. A village could be anywhere from a few dozen homes up to a few hundred homes, and the council house has to be large enough to accommodate everyone, including the children. It has 7 sides and 7 sections of seating, and that's because 7 is a sacred number to the Cherokee, so we also have 7 clans. We have blue, bird, deer, wild potato, paint, wolf, and long hair. And each one of these sections is designated for a specific clan, and only members of that clan can sit there. Now we are a matrilineal society, so everything gets passed down through the female, so you get your clan from your mother. I was born deer because my mother is deer, my grandmother is deer, and so on and so forth. And because clans are considered large families within a village, you're not allowed to marry within your own clan. So whenever you decide to take a spouse, you have to pick someone from one of the other 6 clans. For instance, whenever I got married, I married a man from the Bird clan, and because we are matrilineal, whenever he married me, he took my clan, and our children are my clan. Now my boys, when they go off and get married, they will take their wife's clan, and their children will be her clan. Below that, we have our eagle wands, and if you've not already gotten the Square Grounds lecture, it's going to be at the big sandy area at the top of the hill with Dylan. He's going to tell you all about those. Below that, we have our white gourd dippers, and we use these with this big white bowl right here. We fill this bowl with pure spring water, and we paint these white because white is the color of purity and peace. Each clan has their own designated gourd dipper that only they are allowed to use. We will come and drink from this bowl, and this purifies the mind and body. This is our purification ceremony. Now in the center of the room is our fireplace, and this fire is of such importance to the Cherokee that it's never allowed to go out. In fact, there are 2 men stationed in here whose only job in the village is to make sure that this fire burns at all times, and should it go out for any reason whatsoever, they would be put to death. On the outside is our 7-pointed wooden star. Each point corresponds with a specific clan, and the wood itself represents that each clan is responsible for bringing a specific type of wood to feed this fire over the course of the year. Now the only time this fire is ever allowed to die down is late October or early November, because this is green corn. This is the beginning of the year for us. So after we've let it die down, we take the embers and put them in this little pot right here. This is called a fire pot. Then we will set it aside while we clean out the fireplace. At the same time, women in the homes will clean out their fireplace, come here and get embers from the council house fire pot, take them back home, and rekindle the fires in their homes. And this rids those homes of any negative energies or evil spirits that have invaded the home over the previous year. Then once that's completed, we take the remaining embers, place them back into the fireplace, and rekindle the fire so it's never been allowed to go out. Now behind me, we have our 3 headdresses. Each village had 2 chiefs. They had a peace chief and a war chief. The peace chief wears the yellow and the white, along with this cape over here, which is made from the chest feathers of the wild turkey. The yellow headdress he wears only during his initial inauguration, and every 7 years when he retakes his oath as peace chief. The white headdress he wears during civil ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, council sessions, court proceedings, and things of that nature. Then in times of war, the peace chief will step down and the war chief takes over. He wears the red along with that cape over there, which is made from the tail feathers of the wild turkey. It is trimmed in red and black because red signifies blood and victory, and black because it signifies death and hatred. Now the war chief, whenever he takes office, he pledges an oath to never shed the blood of women, children, elderly, or anyone else who cannot defend themselves. And should he do so, he himself will be put to death. Up towards the ceiling here, this is our skirt. This is also made from the chest feathers of the wild turkey, and this is worn by our beloved woman. Beloved woman is either the widow of a chief or simply an elderly lady who is held in very high regard, very highly respected within the village. Each chief has a council consisting of members from each of the 7 clans. The beloved woman has her own council, except hers is made up of elderly women, and they are called the beloved women or the war women, and it is these ladies who determine the fate of prisoners. So should you commit a crime, whether it be against an individual or the village as a whole, these ladies are the ones who will decide what to do with you. They sit in on all council sessions leading up to and including whether or not to go to war, and because our women are so highly respected, the beloved woman herself has the power to veto any decision reached by the chief and his council. In 1830, Andrew Jackson signed what was called the Indian Removal Act, and what this was an act stating that all of the Native Americans from this portion of the United States be rounded up and forced onto reservations out in the West. About 20,000 of those were Cherokee, and unfortunately about 5,000 of us died along the way due to lack of food, shelter, illness, and poor treatment from the soldiers. The Cherokee that are out west are actually 2 completely separate tribes from us now. They are the Cherokee Nation and the United Caduo Band, and we are the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, because we are the descendants of the ones who refused to leave. So when the soldiers came to round us up, we fled from the mountains and fought back, and because of the self-sacrifice of a man named Solly and his sons, they decided to leave us alone. So we took what money we could get together and gave to Will Thomas, because at this point in U.S. history, Native Americans were not allowed to own property, but Will Thomas, being a white man, could. But he also just happened to be one of us, because he was the adopted son of Drowning Bear, also known as Yonaguska. So he purchased this land here for us. So we technically are not a reservation because we own our land. It wasn't issued to us by the federal government. And I know whenever you come into town, you do see signs saying, "Welcome to the Cherokee Indian Reservation," and that's just to let you guys know where you are. So if we put up a sign that just simply said, "Welcome to the Qualla Boundary," you guys wouldn't even realize that we were here. So in 1924, when we became U.S. citizens, we placed our land in trust to the U.S. government. And what this means is our land can never be sold to outsiders, it can only be sold amongst ourselves, and it can only be leased for up to 25 years at a time. We are a sovereign nation, so it's like we're our own country within the United States. We have our own judicial system, our own healthcare system, and our own school system. And although we choose to go by the state curriculum in our schools, we have our own history and culture as well. We also have an immersion school where children from 6 months up to middle school can go, and they're spoken to in nothing but Cherokee all day long. And the parents of those children also take classes so that they may be able to speak their native tongue at home. We are a completely self-sustaining nation, so we require no assistance from the federal government. But as you guys came through the village here today, you may or may not have been told, we do not have a word in Cherokee for goodbye, so I will say Dedadaga Hayu, which means until we meet again, because we do believe that even if we don't meet again in this life, we may still yet meet again in the next one. So have a nice day.
Shio, Yona Tiknada Dakudoa, Kalialigati Doha, no let that guy Nilaga. Hello, my name is Dylan, glad that y'all are here today, and welcome to the Oconaluftee Indian Village. Now this area right here, this is known as our square grounds or our ceremonial grounds. It would always be placed in the center of the village, just right in front of our council house. Now depending on the size of that village, it could be as small as this, or as big as a football field, or even bigger, always depending on what that village needed. As y'all can see, there is a square amount of sand that surrounds it. That's where I get this name from. Each corner will be designated to one of the 4 directions, with our entrance always facing east where the sun rises, as that symbolizes a new day, new life, and new beginning. And the wall sand does act like a barrier, as it separates what's from common ground and sacred ground, so it acted like the walls of a church. Now there'll be some similar to this in the center, just not this pyramid structure. There'll just be several tree posts with tree branches tied on top, and that will help provide shade for our singers and drummers, or there'll be nothing at all, or it's just a simple fire pit. Now surrounding the square grounds will be 7 arbors like you see here. Now each one will represent one of the 7 clans. Now each clan had their own unique set of skills, abilities, and responsibilities for that village. None of them were never seen higher than the other, as they would all work together to help benefit that village as a whole. Now, to be considered a Cherokee town or village, you have to have all 7 clans represented in that village. If you did not, that was not a town or village, it was just a place where people live. Now our first clan right over here, that is our long-haired clan, Oconaluftee. Now they were our peacemakers and our peace chiefs, even our diplomats and politicians. If there was an intense argument going on between one of the clans or townships, they'll all go to the wisest members of that clan to help resolve that issue peacefully. Now they were also known as the Twisting Hair Clan or the Twister Clan because both men and women from this clan will wear their hair in such elaborate hairstyles and hairdos and walk in a very proud and vain manner, twisting their shoulders as they walk. So you can also think of that clan with all your good-looking people. Now our next clan on the side, that is our Wolf Clan, Oconaluftee. Now they are our warriors and our war chiefs. They're the largest clan and still is today. Now anyone can be a warrior in our society, including both men and women if they chose, but specifically in that clan, they'll raise their children on how to become a warrior, and they were the only clan allowed to hunt and kill the wolf. Our next clan I've decided, that is our deer clan, Oconaluftee. Now they were our foot runners and foot messengers. We didn't use smoke signals or drums to send out our messages. The smoke would just disappear above the treetops into the clouds, and the drums will only echo and fade away in the mountains and valleys. We'll send out a messenger and we would use a relay system. And how that would work, we'll send one of our messengers from this village to go on to the next village. And that village will send their own messenger to go on to the next. And that will continue on until that message has reached its destination. So with this relay system, we can send messages as far as a 100-mile radius in just 24 hours. Now our next clan right here in the middle, that is our most hardworking clan, and that is the Wild Potato Clan, Oconaluftee. Now they were our farmers, so they were in charge of all the agriculture in the village. Make sure the gardens are in top shape, store and collect seeds for next year's harvest, and they were also in charge of the storage building right over there. Now if an individual would ever break a law within that village, then the wisest members of this clan will step forward to bring out the proper punishments. Now depending on how harsh the crime was, will determine how harsh the punishment will be. So harsher the crime, harsher the punishment. With our harshest punishments being banishment from the tribe itself or execution on site. Now the most lightest punishment was the equivalent of a big timeout. You wouldn't be allowed to participate in our dances, games, social activities, festivities, and all other events. And that was a big bummer because us Cherokees love to have fun with our friends and neighbors, have fun with our games, dances, and especially eat all that good food. Just look at me. Now you can also be tied to a shaming post outside of our square grounds in the center of the village for 7 days and 7 nights. And it was up to the women of this clan to see if you deserved any food or water throughout your punishment. Where you be tied in the center of the village, everyone will know what crime you have committed and they would publicly shame you for it. So if you don't want to make this clan angry, you better do your work and follow the village's rules. Now our next clan right beside it, that is our bird clan, Oconaluftee. Now they're our most respected clan as they were our historians and storytellers. Hunters from this clan will be very skilled at using the blowgun, and they were the only clan allowed to harvest feathers from the eagle. When a young man reaches the point in his life, he'll be given that task to do so. But they'll do it at a time when that bird is naturally molting, so there'll be no harm done to the bird when they pluck the feathers. Now our next clan right here, that is our paint clan, Oconaluftee. Now there are our medicine men, healers, and our wise men. Now as their name suggests, they also have the task of gathering materials to make our paints. We'll make our red paint from an iron ochre, our black paint from hickory ash, and our whitewash from a crush of burnt seashells. Now back in the old days, they had the responsibility for the burial of our people. When someone passes away, they'll cover their whole body head to toe in that red paint, which will signify life. And they'll be buried in a fetal position facing east where the sun rises, so their spirit can have a new life and new beginning. Now finally, our last clan right over here, that is our blue clan, Oconaluftee. Now if a child was orphaned or wasn't born into a clan, they'll act as their caretakers until that child is adopted. And they would also doctor our children at a young age, so by the time they're adults, they'll be immune to all diseases in the area. One of the medicines they would use would be made from the blue holly plant, and that is where the blue clan gets its name. Now with this clan system here, It was set up to make sure no incest or inbreeding was going around, and if there was, the punishment was death. And how we would pass down our clanship is through the women of the tribe. When you're born, you'll inherit your mother's clan, and when you marry into your wife's clan and inherit hers. Now, we never marry in our own clan because your clan is considered your family, relatives, and closest of kin, even if you're not blood related. So we always go out and marry into another clan, and that is still being practiced today. Now, when a divorce would happen, of course it happened back then, not as much as today though, but when it did happen, if the couple was no longer happy with each other, or if the wife was no longer pleased with her husband, all she had to do was gather his belongings and set him outside the house. And apparently that is a universal thing everywhere. He'll see this, which means he's no longer wanted. He'll just gather his belongings, move back to his mother's clan, and the wife will keep the house, the children, and the family garden. And it was easy as pie back then too. Now, when we do our dances and ceremonies, we always go in a counterclockwise motion, same notation as the earth, and we held both our ceremonial and our spiritual dances. If it was our social dances and activities, then everyone was allowed to attend, including strangers and outsiders. But if it was our spiritual dances and ceremonies, everyone, well, not everyone, but no strangers or outsiders were permitted inside that village, as those spiritual ceremonies were only for that village's eyes only. Now, the leaders of our dances would always wear a mask, and each mask was made specifically for each dance. So we got several examples up here. Our first mask here would have been made before metal tools were introduced. This mask right here is made from tree bark. Not only would we use tree bark, you would also use gourd, and in some cases, we'll even use hornet's nests for our masks. And don't worry, no hornets were included. Now, depending on that dance, would also determine how I'll decorate this mask. If it was our bear dance, I'll decorate this with bear fur, or if it was our green corn dance for our New Year's, then I'll decorate this with corn husk. Now, when metal tools finally arrived,